7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gilbert?
Here.
Trustee Guerrero? Here. Trustee Nolan?
Present.
Trustee Capoli? Here. Trustee Hatcham? Here. President Myson?
Here.
Treasurer Samofsky?
Here. Approval of the agenda. I have a couple of modifications to make. We did catch there was a error for payment of bills. The $4,368 for GoGov. That was previously approved by council back in May. So we can remove that from the total. So the payment of bills, just for the bills portion, is $869,285.01. Total combined with payroll is $1,017,236.95. And then I'd also I need to add, under new business, one more item, which hopefully should be quick. Building inspector posting.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Been moved and supported that we approve the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Public comments on the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Benoit. I currently reside at 58230 Pembroke Avenue. I wanted to comment on a couple things. I know the priority waste issue is ongoing. I know it's going to be discussed tonight. I've seen some comments floating around online that would suggest that the council might cease payment to priority waste in lieu of the ongoing issues. My recommendation would be strongly against that. I'm happy to have you hold priority waste accountable in terms of maybe assessing fees or penalties for the ongoing issues, but simply ceasing payment to them is only going to cause more issues, because if you weren't getting paid, would you show up to work the next day? No. So if we don't pay them, they're going to stop servicing. So I would highly suggest that maybe we look into other options, and it sounds like maybe some of those will be discussed tonight. The second thing I wanted to discuss was the modification of the spending ordinance that was proposed for tonight. I want to strongly urge council against amending the current spending ordinance to limit the village president and other agents' purchasing authority. While this proposed change may appear as a safeguard, in practice it would severely hinder the village's ability to operate efficiently. The village regularly processes payments, as we just heard, in excess of $500,000 or more each month, covering essential expenses like utilities, public safety, infrastructure, payroll, and vendor contracts. The proposed change to the ordinance is vague at best. It doesn't specify what payments are routine or budgeted, only that purchasing agents' total spending should not exceed $4,000 per month. Reducing our agents' purchasing authority would mean that virtually all expenditures, no matter how routine or necessary, would have to wait for council approval. This would cause delays in paying vendors, risk late fees or certain interruptions, strain relationships with contractors, and ultimately jeopardize the smooth functioning of municipal operations. The current limit of $4,000 per bill already provides oversight while allowing the village president and other agents the ability to keep essential services running without constant bottlenecks. Such an amendment would not create better fiscal control. It would create unnecessary administrative gridlock at the expense of our residents. I respectfully request again that the village council maintain the current ordinance to ensure the village can continue to pay its obligations on time and conduct business efficiently. Thank you.
Public comment on the agenda? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes, regular meeting minutes for July 8th, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for July 8th, 2025 as presented.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the meeting minutes from July 8th, 2025. Any discussion on the motion? Any comments? No? Roll call, please. Or I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Payment of the bills.
Approval of July 2025 payroll in the amount of $147,951.94, and bills to be paid for August 2025, $829,249.99, plus Civic Plus, which is $5,181.75, plus OMIDD bonds, the amount of $34,853.27. Grand total, totaling $869,285.01. Grand total for approval is $1,017,236.95.
Motion in order.
I'll move that we pay the bills in the amount of $1,017,236.95.
It's been moved and supported that we pay our bills in the amount of $1,017,236.95. Roll call, please.
Trustee Zafora?
Yes.
Trustee Young? Yes. Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Nono?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
President Dyson?
Yes. Treasurer's report.
Total village cash assets in the amount of $8,255,136.61.
I move to receive and file the treasurer's report as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we receive and file the treasurer's report. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Communication and committee reports. Clerk, what's up?
September agenda items are due end of August, beginning of September, please.
I started making calendar reminders so that I know what the last day is. Planning Commission update, Trustee Dilbert.
At the last planning commission meeting, we set the public hearing and we approved the temporary batch plan. After the waivers were approved by council, and then we still had to approve the site plan or something to that effect. So we approved that, so they should be good to go. And we set a public hearing for Macomb Automotive, Wise Buys, the Rite Aid. And we had a long discussion about the storage unit, Elixir Railroad Track, Maritime. And so there's they haven't submitted any formal requests for site plan review or anything.
I think they did. Okay. Parks and Rec update, Trustee Guerrero.
Yeah, it's hard to say we have fall activities that are planned. Where does summer go? But Sunday, Franklin Loop is October 12th. Tailgate for Lions will be Community Park on September 28th. We have Scarecrow business contest again, and house contest, October 1st to October 25th. That's all.
Then we have the last slow roll of the season this Wednesday, and the last, slow roll of movies in the park, and then the last music in the park on Friday. So,
You say it's fast, how far can you?
yeah, summer's winding down. All right, unfinished business, item A, Snyder Recreation final payment. Ms. Hazel, did you want to talk about this at all? Or?
It's done.
Yeah, so I know that there was some action items that we had after there was the walkthrough. Are we satisfied with correct actions that we're going to take?
Yeah, there was only two things that was happening. Under one of the rides, I don't even know what it's called, there's a foam mat that goes around. They needed to stack it down. That was one of the things. And we talked about scenes and stuff like that. Nothing was happening with the scenes. They're going to expand the track during the year when people watch an eye on that. They said we shouldn't have any problems with that. We also had one little bump thing for the teeter-totter thing that needs to be fixed. So minor things. So I suggest that we pay them their money, and we've only had their money for like 3 years now. So it's probably good to go ahead and include that payment. I don't have a schedule of those fixes yet, but they're very, very minor. That's what we're looking.
So with that said, the balance due with Snyder Recreation was $258,120 even, which is so the total was $348,120 minus the $90,000 deposit that we had from the splash pad that was repurposed towards this. So again, the grand total of $258,120. I will say it was disappointing that we weren't able to get any grant funding for this one. I did reach out to MML and the MI Funding Hub. While they talk about there being a lot of recreation grants out there, to qualify for the recreation grants, you have to be in the early stages. The fact that we were shovel ready with a vendor already selected disqualified us from pretty much every grant that was available. So definitely a lesson learned that if we're going to do a project, and if we plan to do grant funding for it, do it, rope that in early. Otherwise, motion in order.
When did this walkthrough take place?
We did a week and a half ago.
Okay.
There was a completion form that was in the packet. Everything was completed.
And so we're gonna, because the two items that you had mentioned, the one with that one ride where they, probably it's a bumper or something that.
Yeah.
Depressed, and that foam mat keeps coming apart, and you know, I don't go up there often, I do go up there on a regular basis, but that mat keeps coming apart, and I know at some point, some idiot's gonna grab a section of it and take it home, and,
Yeah, we definitely don't want that.
you know, so it needs to be either tacked down or glued together or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they do have in the completion, they say the bumpers for ORB rocker to be reset by September 1st, and then the spinner mat to be repaired by September 1st as well. So within the next couple of weeks here, they're planning on having that all repaired. Otherwise, motions in order.
I'll motion to approve the Snyder recreational final payment in the amount of $258,120.
It's been moved and supported that we make our final payment with Snyder Recreation in the amount of $258,120. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Noah?
Yes.
Trustee Hesham? Yes. Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Romero?
Yes.
President Mason?
Yes. Funeral home and Seaford House discussion. So, it's been now an additional 30 days, I think maybe even 60 days since I read the original motion to post for another 30 days was made. We actually did get in contact with the owner of both properties. He had a story about his personal situation that was taking up a lot of his time, but told us that he would be able to get on maintenance of the properties, but I have not seen any movement. I don't think we've seen any movement on the properties in the past 60 days. As much as it really pains me for this, I think that the funeral home unfortunately is in a state where there's just no coming back. It's going to have to be demolished. The roof is falling apart. The back half is caving in. The walkway on the like balcony overhang walkway area is like falling apart, literally falling onto the first floor. I just don't really see how it is repairable at this time. So, just curious on what your guys' thoughts are, if we want to try to figure out a way to salvage the building, or if it's, at this point, an act of condemnation.
What's the options?
Attorney Adams.
You can go in and fix it, charge it back to him, put it on his tax bill, and then as cheated to the village. Or you can knock it down. You can go knock it down in a matter of days if that's what you want to do. I mean, that order is entered. And I say this gently. We talked about this and I said, you almost got to be careful what you want because we're going to win. And then you got really tough decisions to make. He has a compelling story. His wife died. I mean, it happens. And we can give him time. I can go into court at any moment. I would think that it's a public, everybody in the public knows what's going on. If somebody had the wherewithal or the interest or a business proposition to buy it and save it, now might be the time to make him an offer. But we hold the cards, and you can decide now, well, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna make it acceptable. You're gonna spend that money and you get to keep track of it. He owes it to you. Can he pay it? Will he pay it? Okay? So, or you can knock it down and charge him for all the costs of that, which my guess would be, I don't know the man, but based on history, he's not going to pay that either. Then eventually it'll become your property, and then what does the village do with it?
Could we sell the property and recoup the cost of knocking it down?
Well, that's what you would try to do. Assuming that someone wants that piece of property.
Something needs to be done. This has gone on.
This has gone on for as long as I've been around here.
And not to sound insensitive, do we know that his wife has passed?
Well, I didn't look it up, but, I
I
get it. No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and perhaps
I
I should.
didn't know he was married.
So those are your choices.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I would love to see the building restored to its former glory, I mean, it sounds like it was really beautiful when it was back in the day. And I'm really not for knocking down a historic building that has a lot of history to the village. I just don't know if that's the right move for us to try to fix it up and charge it to his tax bill.
I wouldn't take that route. I think we have two choices, either knock it down or hopefully it'll come to a consensus and sell it, because there are people out there that are willing to buy it who can and will restore it.
I think the cost of the village to restore it will be because he's never gonna pay it, and
Right.
there's so much work that needs to be done to that. I couldn't believe, I actually went and looked at it, and I was like, wow, I can't believe, because I remember when it was beautiful.
We can't force them to put it onto the market.
Well, I mean, you've done everything to force him. If I'm him, I'm putting it on the market. I mean, I think any rational person facing the fact that we're gonna knock it down, charge you for it, and you're going to have nothing, would put it for sale. You know, Chris, you say there's people interested in buying it. Now's the time. Approach him, make it, whoever that is, make him an offer. See if a deal can be cut. I agree that it was a beautiful and historic building. But it's getting worse and worse, and eventually it's gonna be beyond the point of saving it.
Could we send him a letter? Well, I guess council would have to approve knocking it down. And could we send him a letter to that effect, which may in turn get his attention and force a sale?
Well,
Like
that's
90
good.
days or something like
And that's
that.
what I was just give them a letter saying they'll not that day.
Yeah, and we're gonna tear it down on this date unless
How about,
a sale or,
to avoid any possible constitutional violation, I would suggest the following. How about we have tabled a motion to demolish for 90 days? Okay? That being our only consideration. Either we get an absolute plan to refurbish and reestablish it, or a sale to an individual who will, or a corporation.
Can we send, and then if we table the motion to condemn or to demolish for 90 days, we can send them a letter saying it's.
That's what I would send in that letter.
Does it have to be 90 days?
Oh, we can make it 30 or 60.
Do you think you could get a sale in 30 days though? Do you think you could get a sale in 30 days? That's my only concern. I mean, I'd love to see it cleaned up faster.
His history said that on the 89th day, he's gonna come in.
Right.
That you're not gonna get by
Then shorten the time.
60 days.
All right, so it sounds like we need a motion as such.
And are we talking about just one building or both?
So at least Seaford House, from what I can see, isn't in as bad of condition. What I'd like to do is maybe if we could send our building inspector over, take a look at that building and assess how bad of condition it is in. The funeral home, I mean, it literally has stuff hanging off of it, so.
Plastic roof.
Yeah.
That's a sight.
Yeah, so maybe at least for the funeral home, we would say we need a motion to table for 60, table demolition for 60 days. And for village attorney to send a letter. For Seaford House, maybe the motion is to have our building inspector go out and assess the condition of the house. We can come back in September for that house.
I think that's the proper way to go.
I make the motion to table the funeral home for demolishment for 60 days.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we table demolishing the funeral home for 60 days. And our village attorney will send a letter as such to notify them.
Yep.
Any further discussion on that motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Weber?
Yes.
Trustee Polly?
yes.
Trustee Donna?
Yes.
Trustee Hatcham? Yes. President Mason?
Yes.
I make the motion for the building inspector to visit the secret house to determine its wetness,
Condition.
its condition.
And report back for
And report-
September meeting.
And report back to the meeting.
Support.
Moved and supported that we have the building inspector give us a assessment of the secret house. Any further discussion on that motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Mona?
Yes.
Trustee Nestor?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.
President Mason?
Yes. And I apologize, I completely forgot that we were planning on reordering a little bit. We have Yo and Yo here to give us a presentation about our audit. We normally let them go first so that they don't have to stay through the whole meeting. So if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to jump over to Yo and Yo so that they can make their presentation.
Yeah, Michael, you don't have anything to do.
I apologize. Halfway through that, I was like, oh crap, they were supposed to go first. Sorry about that.
You just get me back for something. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Rolka with Yo-Yo CPAs. Thank you for having me here. We're going to present the audit results for the March 31, 2025 audit. So remember, that's the end of the fiscal year. So a couple months back, we completed the audit. I'll go over what our opinion is, very high level, we touch on the numbers, and then into some of our recommendations. So firstly, if you flip into the audit opinion, we have issued what is called an unmodified opinion. And that's what you want to hear every single time you see me up here, that there's been no modifications to your opinion, which means that the financial statements as presented to you are materially correct. And again, that's reasonable assurance that they're materially correct. That's key to understand because we cannot look at every single transaction. I mean, you see you guys just approved $1 million tonight. If we looked at every one of those transactions throughout the course of the entire year, well, you'd have a single year. So we do it on a test basis, on a risk assessment. We do risk assessment in order to decide what procedures we'll perform, and that's how we establish our audit procedures. So that's the highest level of assurance you can get on your financial statements. And with that, management has some responsibilities in order for us to be able to do our risk assessment and our audit procedures. And so management is responsible for maintaining and implementing internal controls. That includes prevention and detection or correction. Again, our responsibility then is to perform a risk assessment on the internal controls here, develop procedures based on what your primary accounting balances are, and validate those balances. Again, bottom line then, unmodified opinion, and that's what you want to hear every time. So next, I'm going to touch on some of the numbers and just give you a quick comparison to what they look like in past years. So you'll see a pie chart of the general fund here. These allocations are highly consistent year over year. Other revenue is up just a little bit because the interest earnings were a little bit higher, and your taxable taxes are up just a little bit because taxable values went up about 17 million year over year. Looking at expenses, these are extremely consistent as well compared to 2024 as far as the allocations go. There's a little bit more in capital outlays because of a server upgrade and a furnace, but again, highly consistent year over year. Usually about 50% of your funds are spent on public safety. Let's put those together on the next slide. Over the past 5 years, you can kind of see what the trends were, and you might see 2024 and think, well, what's going on here? And remember, that's when all of those ARPA funds were recognized as revenue replacement. So that's a one-off year. I would expect the next year to be more consistent, maybe up a little if taxable values continue to rise. And I think it's important to look at the expense lines there. That's showing, very stable expenses and not that much of an increase. If you look back to 2021, you're right back in line with just about that. Next slide shows the revenues and expenses for the water operations. The revenues and expenses are getting closer to one another, so you just want to watch closely and make sure those rates continue to support the operations so we don't end up upside down. But as of right now, they're pretty consistent year over year, but that's just something to keep your eye on. It's easy to see when you put it together like this that they're converging. Similar slide for your sewer operations. This one has been very consistent year over year, and I think if I was to put a few more years back, it would look quite like that as well. So very consistent trend there. That's looking great. Next slide is on the general fund's fund balance. It continues to rise. As you saw, revenues exceeded expenditures. Again, this year, it's a very comfortable fund balance, meaning that there is room for the village to do some projects if there's something the council decides is important to the village. And then lastly, I have two more slides that I'd like to discuss regarding the water fund and the sewers fund. As you recall, years ago, those used to be in deficit, so we're looking just at the unrestricted net position of these funds right now. And they continue to climb or be stable. So the water fund, fairly stable. It's been right around that $1 million mark for the past few years. And on the following slide, the sewer fund continues to climb just slightly. So consistency is good. We're not going backwards, and so I think those are in a good position. The last slide I have to present to you is regarding required communications. That you have a complete letter in with the financial statements there that I encourage you to read, but I'll give you the highlights, everything that you really need to know. So firstly, there were two new standards that were required to be adopted this year that went into financial statement preparation. GASB Statement 100 was related to error corrections and accounting changes. And really what that means is when a new accounting standard comes out, how do we footnote that and how do we disclose it? And so that's where GASB 101 comes in. This standard, GASB 101, was a new reporting model on compensated absences. So paid time off, such as vacation time, sick time, PTO, PDO, whatever you may call it. So we implemented this new standard, which required that balance to be restated under the new method. And so that did increase the projected balance about $20,000, and that's all been done quite nicely. What that required was new estimations about your compensated absence balances, so vacation pay, sick pay, whatever it may be. You have to estimate how much you expect employees to use or get paid out. If it's more likely than not that they'll use it or get it paid out, you now record it. Whereas under the old model, you just record it if they were due when they left. So now we're estimating what could they use as well. So that leads into significant estimates. First one is the useful lives of capital assets. I think I always like to use a fire truck example there. So when you purchase a fire truck, how long are you going to depreciate that? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? So that's an estimate, and that impacts how much expense flows through the financial statements in any given year. The other estimate is the building lease for this building. You have to estimate how many extension clauses you're going to use, what sort of discount rate or interest rate will be applied to it. So that's that with the lease liability, the right to use asset, and the lease liability. And the last and new estimate is the total OPEB liability. So that stands for other post-employment benefits. So that's new with recently created plan. One of your employees retired and is entitled to certain benefits through retirement. And that created a projected liability of approximately $99,000. But there's a lot of estimation that goes into that number. Mortality rates, discount rates, investment rates of return, healthcare cost trends. So that number could end up being $10,000. It could be $200,000. It's very hard to say, but that's the projection there. We did have one recommendation. This recommendation was made last year, and nothing was implemented, but it has now been implemented, as I understand. So manual journal entries didn't really have a secondary set of eyes on it, or weren't coming to council, but as I understand, they have been now this meeting and maybe a couple meetings before. So that's been implemented. And the last thing I have, Brian asked me if I could comment on a couple of the purchasing controls that are in place here at the village, hearing that you're talking through a potential ordinance change. So I've highlighted some of what I see as the key controls, and I'll just give a little bit of my opinion on those. So one of the biggest controls that I see is that the clerk and treasurer both have to sign the checks, and so nothing's getting paid unless there's collusion there. That's one that's extremely important in my mind. Another one is that the check registers are presented to all of you for every single meeting. You can look through and question any check. There's budget to actual review at your level, as I understand, as well as department heads. Major purchases have to be approved over $4,000. I think that's one of the things potentially changing. And then the final control would be that bank reconciliations are prepared monthly, so that could catch anything that doesn't necessarily flow through a check. So if there's an ACH or an EFT that somehow some bad actor gets a hold of your information and pulls out $100,000, yes, it has happened, but you will catch it and potentially be able to recoup some of that, perhaps through insurance or through your bank. With that, I'm happy to take any questions on the audit stuff or purchasing controls. And of course, I want to thank you all for continuing with Yo and Yo, and Sandy and her team for doing a great job.
I do have a question.
Sure.
On the water fund, where our operations are, the revenue and expenditures are starting to narrow.
Yes, sir.
Is that the reason for the water fund balance to be kind of leveling off?
Yes, that would primarily be that. There would be some other non-operating revenue not included here, since that's not really impacted by rates, the non-operating revenue and expenses, but that would be it because they're coming together. Exactly.
Okay, so it's not a one-to-one, but it's a contributing factor.
Yes.
It's leveling off of the water. Okay.
And I think the reason why those are converging is because we really narrowed as much as possible what we're charging for the water.
And I remember, before I was on the board, one of the audits, they gave a recommendation on our water rates and sewer rates, and it wasn't implemented at the time, which ended up biting us later on. Is there any recommendation you would make now with our rates?
Not currently, with a little caveat, haven't done any sort of rate study here or anything to that effect, but I know rates have been changing and increasing over the years here when we first became auditors, and I think that recommendation may have even preceded us, but this fund, I think, was in a deficit, or possibly the sewer fund as well, I can't quite recall, but those have been stabilized, I'll say. Yeah.
So there's no immediate danger that you see financially?
No, not immediately, because as you see, there's $1 million available of net position, excuse me. Now that could get eaten up quickly, don't get me wrong, but it's available. It's much better than it was 10 years ago.
I would assume if we see the expenses outweigh the revenue, then yeah, we would need to make a change.
Right, absolutely. Ideally, you'll head that off before we get there. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thank
And I
you.
agree, summer is coming to an end too quickly. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Should we have a motion just to receive and file the Yo and Yo annual audit results?
I move to receive Yo's annual audit results or results.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we receive and file Yo and Yo's annual audit results. If clerk would say, if we get I think we might have already gotten the electronic version.
It's already posted in the package.
Oh, right. So if we could just, we could forward it over to Genevieve, make sure that it's on the website. Cool, thank you. Any other further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, back to our regular programming. Unfinished business, item C, Tri-County International Trucks, DPW
I
Superintendent.
can talk about it, but I don't remember what was on there.
Okay.
I can tell you.
Tariff increase.
Yeah, I don't, let's see my name.
Yeah, we do have it within the packet.
As you know, we've been having the plow trucks have been at order since January 2023, seems like, it's been that long. They finally are in, they're starting to put them together. We have 2 vendors that we have to deal with, one for the chassis, one for the rest of the parts that go on the truck. The one that I'm asking right now, they have incurred tariffs for where the chassis was coming from, so I need to bring that back to council and ask them if we can increase that amount to that invoice. And I don't remember what that letter said now.
So the 2024 surcharges that were added was $2,600, and the 2025 tariff charges were $2,000 for the total price, with the surcharges of $94,896.36.
So I'm asking for the increase so that we can do that. I also talked to the other vendor, we will not be getting any extra tariffs on the second portion of our, because we'll be getting another invoice in for the rest of the truck.
Right, this is just the chassis.
This is this chassis part, yes.
So this is just the $4,600 of surcharges and tariffs.
Per truck.
Per truck, right? Correct, yes. So I'm asking for the increase of 46.92. We can't do anything about it,
Yes,
so.
$9,200.
We were aware that we will probably get tariffs because of the fact that it's so long for it to come to us, get built, so.
So per truck, it's 4,600. Since we have the 2 trucks on order, our DPW is asking for approval to move forward with an increase of $9,200.
They're talking about we should be getting it the third quarter. Well, this is the third quarter. The fourth quarter.
Third quarter starts in less than a month.
The fourth quarter, so hopefully we have it for winter
Yeah.
this year. So that's all. Any questions?
I make a motion for 9,200 additional for the Tri-County International Trucks.
It's been moved and supported that we pay the additional $9,200 for the surcharges and tariff-driven surcharge for $9,200 total for the 2 trucks to Tri-County International Trucks.
Tell us what it's for, though.
Well, it says 2024 surcharges that were added total 2,600, and yeah, I mean, whatever that means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I can understand the tariff with the surcharge. I mean, we technically signed a purchase order, purchase contract to buy it for this price.
Yeah, so, and I mean, even the tariffs, I mean, what tariffs are they referring to? And because, you know, the way the tariffs have gone into effect, out of effect, extended 90 days, up, down, I mean, I would hope that they could give us a little more information. That's just my thought. I mean, if they're legitimate.
Well, we don't have them yet, so we can table this till the next time. I don't think there's on the invoice, I don't think there's a date in there.
There's not.
Or
Not
two.
on the letter. On the invoice itself, it says due upon receipt.
Okay, well, I'll just resend that and I'll take over for our next meeting.
We can do that. I don't find out more information. I don't know if the salesmen know what that means, but I will ask the question.
All right.
Well, it says the increased cost of copper, steel, aluminum, resin products used in the manufacturing of the truck.
Okay, I remember that now.
Oh, yeah, it does say that in the,
This is happening across the whole industry with every OEM along with the 2025 tariff-driven charge.
I can concur with that, the fact that when we had meter prices are going up because of the steel that is being dealt with our meters from, so I mean, steel, properties and all that stuff has been going up.
okay, so are everyone comfortable with the explanation then? So it's due to the increased cost of copper, steel, aluminum, resin products used in the manufacturing of the truck.
I can get more information. I don't know what my answer is, yeah, let's do that.
Let's get more information.
Okay.
It's $200,000, yeah. $9,200, that's a lot, that's big. You know, we've been sitting on this purchase order. No, I agree.
Okay.
I'll get more information for next time.
Yeah, and I mean, at the very least, I mean, I guess, you know, to Trustee Pergoli's point, the 2024 surcharges, it's not our fault that we're having to incur that when we've been waiting for them to supply us with these chassis for years.
And this will give me some leverage that you guys tabled it to the fact that maybe I can get a board, so
Yeah.
I'll use that as leverage. Okay?
All right, we will table that then.
All right, so there's a motion to table, if you guys want to.
I already did everything on the table.
So there's a motion to table, we have support.
Support.
It's been moved and doubly supported that we table the motion until, or table the topic until next month. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number D, priority waste. So I know Trustee Pergoli reached out to me and was requesting that we put this onto the agenda formally. You know, I know we get, every week it's a number of complaints. I do believe that they have been a little bit better in very recent weeks. But if you're on the receiving end of not having your trash picked up, it doesn't make it any less frustrating. You know, I know there was some discussion about not paying them at all for the month, but I don't necessarily think that's the right move. I don't really want to be the one fielding everybody's
Can I
complaints.
clarify this for a second, because it's come up multiple times?
Sure.
The exact thing I said was, if we don't do anything as a board for priority rates, then the only thing I can do, and that I will do, is vote no for paying them when it comes to payment of bills. As long as we do something, but if we as a board just continue to let them miss residents every single week, regardless of how much, because GFL didn't have this problem, Waste Management didn't have this problem, it's only a priority thing. And we're paying priority more than we paid them. So if we don't, as a board, don't do anything to hold them accountable, then the only thing I can do, and I will do going forward, is vote no to pay them.
I don't know if I would necessarily agree that GFL wasn't as much of a problem. I mean, compared to when Priority first took over, absolutely. GFL was doing a lot better job, but recent weeks, I want to say we're maybe seeing a dozen complaints. I don't know if we saw as much or as little with GFL, but I mean, about a dozen complaints isn't really that bad. It's not perfect. But when you figure that they're doing 3 waste pickups across every single household, to have about a dozen complaints isn't really that big on the grand scheme. Trustee Dillard?
I can only speak for my subdivision. I don't think you're gonna see many complaints in my subdivision. And the few missed pickups that I've noticed, it has to have been the homeowner's fault. Because if the whole block is picked up except for me, well, I didn't get up and put my garbage up. Okay? And so while a few weeks ago they picked up recyclables on Friday, they did come back on Saturday and get the garbage. And for that particular week, they never did get yard waste. But that was a one-time, I mean, I just, like I said, I mean, I've had issues with GFL, I have issues with Waste Management, I've had issues with Rizzo, whoever, you know, they all have their moments. But just speaking for my subdivision, I just don't see it, you know, as being a major problem, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the complaints that we get, like, I know Delaney Street has had habitual complaints. I reach out to the representative at Priority Waste. I have a contact there that I've been working with that is very responsive, replies to my emails right away. A little dodgy on giving me the root cause of why we're seeing the issues. I mean, they have the video, so they should be able to go back. And I mean, my gosh, if they go back and look at the video and see that they missed it because the resident didn't have it out in time, I'll be just as happy to relay that information back to the resident and say, well, you didn't put it out in time. But he hasn't been giving me any real resolution there. But when I do reach out to him, I know this past Friday, they missed a couple of houses on Delaney. The resident notified me right away. I reached out to the contact, and the contact sent the information over to the route supervisor. They did come back and they picked up the trash before the end of the day. So, I mean, there is some corrective action that does take place, but the biggest thing is that we have to be notified about it in a timely manner. A lot of times I'll see posts on Facebook where it's like, well, it'll be like on Sunday or Monday, well, they haven't picked it up and it's still sitting outside. Well, yeah, if you didn't notify anybody, then what can we do?
I'm not speaking on the one-offs a lot, I'm speaking of entire streets that get missed. That's a routing thing, that's a company, that's a process thing that they're not coming up on. If they're not producing videos on the individual one, I'm more emphasized with the resident at that point. But when they're having sections of town being missed regularly, that's an issue.
Yeah, so the last time that we had a section of town missed, I believe, was Trustee Gilbert's example, where they only did so much on Friday. They did communicate out, they supplied us with a map, and they had it highlighted of what section they missed and that they would be back on Saturday. Which honestly is all I could hope for. I mean, if they're gonna be late, at least communicate it out. At least in the recent weeks, I feel like there has been improvement personally. I'm not seeing as many complaints. The hard part is that with social media and where we're seeing all these complaints is that everybody joins it, piles on. You get one person that complains, next thing you know, you got a whole bunch of people that complain. We did post a form online for residents to report any issues that they're having with priority waste. It's available on the website, or if they have the app, it's the very first link at the top of the app. I know for this past week, I think there was only 3 individuals that filled out the form, if memory serves correct. So, I mean, unfortunately, we can only do so much to try to force people to like actually give us the heads up if they're having a problem.
And we're not the only municipality dealing with this either.
Correct.
This is something systemic within that company.
Correct.
Where they're not performing to the standard they say they're going to. Because they came here in, I want to say September. I don't remember the month, but he came in and I think it was October. He said, we're going to have all the things worked out in October. We're coming up to 1 year from that point, and things aren't worked out.
Yeah, I mean, no disagreements there. I think they definitely bit off more than they realized they were biting off. It's probably the understatement of the century. You know, they have been having repeated issues, and you know, it's funny. When they first did take over, they bragged about how they wouldn't send garbage trucks out in the condition that GFL had them in. Now I'm seeing more and more complaints about their garbage trucks leaking hydraulic fluid all over the streets, which is exactly what we saw with GFL. So they're sending the trucks out in whatever condition they are in. And I mean, even 1 week, we had 2 trucks break down in Decorah Park on the same day. So they are sending out trucks as much as they can, but it hasn't been perfect. I don't know what the real resolution is from our standpoint. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to let the bigger municipalities fight the battle of priority, and at the end of the day, if they increase their resources, hiring more people, getting their trucks repaired, buying more trucks, at the end of the day, all the municipalities they service are going to win. Attorney Dennis, I don't know if you can opine on, you know, like what are our real options based on what we have in the contract, what's not in the contract, what are we actually able to do?
There's an old thing I was taught in law school that a boat that doesn't float isn't a boat. And a garbage company that doesn't pick up garbage isn't a garbage company. But we understand that mistakes are made and that there's been changeover, and I understand that we had public comment that you hate to say we're not gonna pay you and they walk away, because that's a problem. And that's a serious problem and a good point. Clinton Township fined them $50,000. Now, I'm sure Clinton Township's bill is substantially more than $50,000. I think you should maybe look into a system of withholding pay per violation. Now, that's just a suggestion, that if you miss this many homes, we're gonna hold back this much. If you miss a whole neighborhood, we're gonna hold back that much. If you miss a whole street, these are things you could look into. I think it's wise also to say that the big people are fighting them, and to let them make the serious fight. But the contract is one thing, but the truth of the matter is, when they fail to do what they're supposed to do, the contract's violated. So you can't on one end be the company that violates the contract and then say, yeah, but the contract says you have to pay this. Okay? So I'm not sure that's much help, but I would look in to some system of letting them know. And maybe you need to spend some time and to do it in one night here and decide on it and come up with a plan. Look at what they failed to do. Get a little chart of it and say, okay, if you miss 5 homes, we're going to hold this much back. If you miss 20, we're going to hold like this. You miss a street, we're going to hold that. To motivate them in some way. You know, I like that, you know, Clinton Township fined them and they said, boy, they got right on it. But Clinton Township's the biggest township.
Right.
They're going to kowtow to them no matter what. They may not to us.
And they were in the unusual situation that they actually had it in their contract that they were able to fine for missed pickups. It was carryover from earlier contracts.
I don't think that whether it's in our contract or not, I do not believe any court would hold that against you. You don't have to pay for services not rendered.
And I'd be okay with something along those lines, but maybe something we could look into that, bring something back.
The other thing, I'm okay with that. I think we should look into something and come back with a plan. My only other hang up with it is, it's like, okay, well, let's say we say for every 5 houses, we're gonna withhold $1,000, something like that. I mean, that might motivate them to not miss 5 houses, but if they do miss 5 houses, we withhold $1,000, that resident is still on the hook for the full amount on their water bill. So, I mean, aside from trying to motivate them, it's not really resolving their situation that they're still paying full for.
On an individual level, but at a community level,
Yeah.
withholding that gives us the potential later on to do what we did before, to eat increases, so the community itself would benefit from it.
Well, you could, with that money that you withhold, create a fund to repay those people.
Or even better.
Okay, I like that. Okay. What's the pleasure, council?
I'm okay if we look into any of those options and see what's feasible and bring it back to council. As long as we're taking action, I'm okay with it.
Trustee Cordelli, do you want to take that on?
What's that?
To like try to divide, like kind of put a proposal together on what we can do?
You want me doing it? I'm a little more harsh than other people. I think I want somebody who's more amenable to something reasonable.
Maybe it needs to be multiple people that.
I mean, you can have me, but I'm pretty sure I'll be an outlier.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does anybody want to take this on? Does anybody want to, or what's everybody else's thoughts? I know Mario and I have done a lot of talking about it.
I mean, I will with somebody if somebody wants to be the.
I'm with Mark.
You want to be the yin to my yang?
Yeah. More controlling.
I support what Attorney Addis emphasized, there has to be accountability.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
responsible for their actions.
Yeah. And, you know, while it might not seem like we as a board are doing anything, the number of emails that I'm sending over to Priority every single week, trust me, we are hearing and working with them, especially when I see that it's a habitual miss or somebody that says they've been missed on a regular basis. I tell them, you need to get this right this week. Do it. Get it right. I've even sent them emails giving them a pep talk on Thursday saying, this is the week you're going to knock it out of the park. And they actually did a little better. So, you know, I mean, maybe as a board, like at the council table, you know, we haven't been doing as much, but from the administration side, we are definitely trying as much as possible to keep on. All right, so trustee Crepoli and trustee Guerrero, if you guys can both come back next month with something, we can take another look at it then. Marijuana ordinance updates. There was a number of questions which arose from the workshop. Attorney Ennis, did you want to speak to it, or do you want us to just table this and bring it back next month? Or?
Well, I mean, I have, if any, the questions are pretty simple. If you table it, I will bring back the proposed ordinance with the changes that everybody's talked about. I'm not sure it's ever going to matter because with the state of the industry, I'm not sure anybody's going to open a marijuana place no matter what we do, but we have to do it to protect the takeover. So I will bring the new ordinance with the questions that several board members have raised.
Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Bring it back next month. Okay.
Everything's going back.
What's that?
Everything's going back.
Yeah. Do we have a motion then in order to table this until next month?
So,
Do we have a support? It's been moved and supported that we table marijuana ordinance update until next month. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business, we already covered item A. Item number B, changes to the spending ordinance 399. Trustee Colby.
So this is what I said I'd bring back. I was supposed to do it last month, but then I decided to work all these hours. I reached out to other council people just to make sure that I'm not crazy, and the interpretation of how we voted on the original spending ordinance was that it was capped at per month, and I talked to a few council people and they understood it the same way. So that's what started all this. The idea that I have unlimited expenditures didn't sit well with me. I would have never voted yes on that. And I had one other trustee confirm that they would not have voted the same way if they interpreted it like that as well. So that's what started this whole process. If the $4,000, you got a huge problem with that. I don't know if you understand exactly what that entails. I'm okay with altering that amount if it to fit what the village needs to do, but right now, as the ordinance is written, we have 3 things that council pre-approves expenditures on. We have emergencies, so any emergency that happens within the village, council's already given the president the authorization to spend that money to deal with that emergency. We also have the reoccurring bills that come up, and those are and they specifically mention things like utilities, rents, employment obligations, council-approved contracts, etc., which covers a majority of the day-to-day bills on there. And the third is, I guess I call it the discretionary spending from the purchasing agents, which we put down as $4,000. And two of the reasons that I didn't think, or that I don't interpret it as per invoice, is because we gave multiple people purchasing agent power. So if it was interpreted that you were going to give $4,000 unlimited, there would have been no logical reason to give multiple people $4,000 as well. You could have just approved everything. Right? We wouldn't have to give multiple people $4,000 because you could just do all of them. And the other one was section 2 of the ordinance, purchasing of supplies, materials, or equipment the total cost of which is less than $4,000. I interpret that as the total cost of all those three things is $4,000 between meetings. So that's the two reasons that I interpret it as it was a monthly amount and not an invoice amount. If that amount isn't sufficient, I'm okay with changing it, but as written, I am not comfortable in any capacity giving a blank check to anybody.
Point me in the direction where in the ordinance it says, it talks about the routine, like payment of bills.
Routine?
You said there was the like utilities.
No, recurring. Section 8. And I said, someone said it was vague, but it's actually clear. It says council determines what those bills are.
Which section?
Section 8.
8?
Yeah.
There's only 4 sections
Of what?
in the purchasing
You
ordinance.
said 8 or 8?
8. Of the spending ordinance.
There's only 4 sections.
Ordinance 399.
I mean, this could be.
Ordinance 399. Section 8, payment of recurring bills. Recurring bills.
So, the ordinance in the packet, 399, replaces existing sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 of ordinance 302. So,
This.
the rest of ordinance 302 is where section 8 is.
Okay, so we don't have that section in the packet.
Oh, so the whole thing isn't in the packet?
No.
Okay, well,
You only.
That probably explains a lot of our debates.
well, I'm looking at the hard copy of it over here, but yeah, it already says what is covered under that.
Yeah, there's 5 through 12, 5 through 9.
Because our back and forth that we've been doing is, I'm gonna shut the village down, and I'm like, how? You know, and I was never given an answer to that.
So, I know when I talked to one of our past board members, years ago, used to be on the board. She recalled that she thought it was changed to per invoice back under President, back under President Kay. And I don't know if you have recollections of that back in the day.
Who's that?
When Jamie was in office.
Oh, that thing.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, multiple Kincaids, I should know better. It was Ms. Rodsick's recollection that under Jamie, this was changed from a monthly limit to per invoice. And it had to do with credit card bills coming in where the due date was prior to the next council meeting.
And my understanding on that was it was changed, it was proposed change by, it was trustee Deborah Hill at the time. And that's why the section added that they will make bills paid timely that incur late fees. That's why that part was added. But it didn't change it to invoice, it just says that any bill that would incur a late fee if it didn't get paid would be paid. To avoid that late fee and expense. Which was changed, because I even pulled up that ordinance, that's the wording that was changed was, I can find out what it said. Oh, 270 here. But it says in here that they will pay bills to avoid late fees.
Yeah, these bills shall be paid timely to avoid late fees and
Yeah.
interest.
So that's the verbiage that was changed in that ordinance. Which those also get covered as well. And that
Yeah.
would come out of your $4,000.
I guess my biggest hang up, and this is where Trustee Piccoli and I have been debating back and forth or disagreeing on, is my hang up is that we have a number of checks and balances that are already in place. So in the mantra of, let's say I decide I want to buy myself a Lamborghini. I'm gonna go buy a Lamborghini, I'm gonna submit my invoice to Ms. Kazel. Ms. Kazel get a GL number applied so that it is attached to the budget somewhere. So anything that's considered frivolous, doesn't pass the SNF test. If it was, even if I came to Ms. Kazel and I had $1 million in $4,000 increments, all of that would have to go through our account. So that's a check that we have in place, a check and balance. Let's say there's collusion. Ms. Kazel wants to drive the Lamborghini half the time. So she says, okay, only half. So she approves it, gives me a GL number to mark against it. Now it has to go to our AP clerk for her to enter it in. I would venture to think that anything that doesn't pass the sniff test with our AP clerk is probably going to get questioned, going to be asked, at the very least, she's going to go to Ms. Kazel. Let's say, fine, Ms. Kazel only gets the Lamborghini a third of the time, and I'm going to let the AP clerk drive the Lamborghini another third of the time, and I'm going to have a third of the time, so now we got three-way collusion going on. Then it gets entered into BS&A, I have to approve the PO. Once all that's done, then it has to go to the check signers. And this is where I know Trustee Tricoli and I have really disagreed on, is in my opinion, and even Mr. Roca's opinion from Yo and Yo, the check signers are the last line of defense when it comes to checks and balances. I'm fairly confident that even if I were to get Ms. Kazel and our AP clerk, and I don't know, maybe I can talk our treasurer into going in 1/4 of the time on the Lamborghini, I have a feeling that our other check signer isn't going to agree. You know what I mean? We have two check signers that has to sign the check for it to be valid. There are a lot of stipulations to get us to that point. So, you know, the thought of a death by $1 million cuts, I don't see it. We have 25, 30 invoices that we approve a week. I made a list of just some of the invoices that I had today to approve. We had Ajax cold patch for $114, I'm just rounding to the nearest, or to a dollar. I would assume that would be considered routine, but I'm not really sure, because you don't really have a solid definition of what we're saying. We had an ABS light that needed to be replaced on a Freightliner, that was $141.
Doesn't that fall under DPW?
So both of those, I would say, are DPW, so that would go towards that $4,000 balance, I guess. I'm seeing a shaking of the head.
Freightliner, empty.
Oh, the Freightliner was the fire department? All right, my bad. There was a golf cart brake cable that needed replacing. That was $405 from the FD. 4 light bulbs for Fountain Park, $108. I mean, these, to me, are all routine. I would assume everybody would agree is routine. We did have Pure Color Painting, who's been redoing the park. They came out and they washed, sanded, and stained all the picnic tables. That was $2,100.
What are the terms on these, though? I mean, if it's not 30, it can easily wait until the next council, not the ones today, but.
I don't think they were all, I don't know if all of
I
them were
brought
at
up quite
30.
a few that were not 30 that could have waited. And your excuse was we're gonna shut the village down. We're not. We have 30 days to pay it.
Not that that 30 is shutting the village down, but, I mean, at the end of the day, if these are all things that we've already purchased, we got an invoice for after the fact, what's the point in waiting on paying it?
Approval?
If these are all considered routine, I'm interested.
Okay, can I address your first point before we go? So the checks and balances, I'm looking at it at a macro level. Our accountant has a responsibility, and our check signers have a responsibility, but they themselves have no authority on it. Council does. Council determines what gets spent on. So when it comes to checks and balances, we are the ultimate authority in terms of finances in the village. So it does end up ultimately have to come to us. For the $4,000, the reason why I think, in my belief, that it has to be as small as it possibly can be is because that is a blank check to you. When it came up the first time, I believe I used the example that of a $4,000 chair. And that went over everybody's head, that they thought I was actually talking about a chair, but I'm talking about an expense that makes no sense. And I asked the attorney at the time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it wasn't, you weren't the president at the time, if that president were to go and every month buy a chair for $4,000, what could we as a council do? And he said nothing, because this ordinance, we're giving them the discretion to buy, this amount of money, that this is why I didn't like it at first, was you've got $4,000 of discretionary income, or expenditures that month, for you to decide what it goes towards. And we pre-approved that amount already.
But I would disagree that it's not, there is something that council would do, is because you get a copy of the check register every month. If you saw that $4,000 chair, you could pull it out of the check registry and say, we're not gonna pay.
I asked if we could do that, and it was specifically said no at the time, because we authorized it under this ordinance. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I'm remembering the conversation.
Well, okay, but here's the situation. The check and balances, you got to see it and you found it, okay? Can you unpay it? No. Can you take action to make sure it never happens again? Or file a criminal complaint? Yes. I mean, you give the authority, so the person getting the check is a bona fide purchaser for value without notice. In other words, I did the patching of the street, the co-patch, and you paid me, and they decided you shouldn't. You can't take that money back from me. I still did the job, okay? If you then find out, however, that he paid $130 to someone who doesn't exist, you have all manner of possibilities to go after him, one being criminally, two being civilly, three, hitting his bond. Now, I don't have a position as a lawyer as to what your limit should be on discretionary payment. I don't see a lot of bills that rise to $4,000 a year in what you've named so far. So if you want to lower that number or raise that number, that's not a legal question. But there are checks and balances, and the opportunity. The other thing could be that you do see the check register, and I would assume that if you catch bad things happening, any board member should act immediately and take that action. But let's be honest, there are some very, very, very smart politicians who have been very, very good crooks. So your point is very well taken. So limiting the amount is to me, the first order of defense. Now, what you guys think is reasonable is a political number, a legislative number. What do you think is possible? You have a former village president here and others, and you've all been in position. That's a different debate. But you can't go and take the money back from the person who got paid unless they were involved in a conspiracy to defraud too. Then you could claw it back from both. So if I misspoke or misled, I apologize.
Well, I'm not speaking of anything that was illegal.
Okay.
I'm saying something that I would consider wasteful, but not illegal. Like, that's why I use the example of the chair.
Then I'll stand by it. Once you give him the discretion to pay it, he gets to pay it.
Yeah, so that's what was said last time. So if you wanted to buy a $3,999 chair, you can. There's nothing we can do about it because you already said you can spend that money.
In my opinion, and I've sat in that chair on 2 occasions. The day-to-day operation of this community lies with the fire chief, the DPW superintendent, and the office manager. Okay? My time as president, I had a spending limit of $2,500 that was never exceeded except for in cases of public safety or emergency. Okay? I didn't get into buying paper towels and dish soap and all that kind of stuff, or phones, or, okay? When it came to public safety or emergency, that's when I could exercise my authority, okay? But the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month operating of this village falls on the 3 department heads and their spending. And on occasion, a department head may have to exceed their spending limit at the time, which I think was only $2,500. Okay? And I recall a case when the subdivisions were just exploding and we needed to buy water meters. And the $2,500 that the DPW had only bought 10 meters. So I would get an invoice, that exceeded that spending limit because we needed those meters so that these houses could be completed, okay? But on a day-to-day, and while I voted for that ordinance, I have never felt comfortable because I don't think the president needs a spending limit that is that high because he really doesn't have that responsibility on a day-to-day basis. Okay? I mean, if I had my way, his spending limit would go right back down to what it used to be because what we're seeing on a regular basis is approval by the president for things that we may not agree with. Like, I think in here, there's some new phones that have been bought, okay? Why? I mean, the old phones were only 2 years old, okay? We are paying for contracts and whatnot that fall under that spending limit, okay? Things are happening prior to council meetings because that spending limit is up here. And I would agree with you. I interpret that spending limit as a once a month thing, not a once a day or once a week.
And the component, so that the spending or the discretionary income is just one component on it. The other one is that I really want to see on there is the reporting of it. I want to see where the expenditures are being applied to through our ordinance. Because like even right now, even under emergency purchases, I understand the phones you declared as an emergency purchase on it, but there's a report that's supposed to go with it. So I, as a council person, can say, okay, we had an emergency, this is the amount that was spent under that thing. Here's the recurring bills that we have, this is the spending. Here's my $4,000, this is what I spent on the $4,000 kind of thing. So I can see, okay, what bucket were these expenses put in? Because right now, the way it is now, Marcus or Dan, or you can go over $4,000 and we at the table can't readily see that. It's not readily available.
You have it in the check register.
You know how many checks in there are written for over that amount?
It's not that many.
You can, well, no, because if you do it a nickel and dime approach, unless I add up and then I gotta determine which ones are yours, which ones are his, which ones are Dan's. How do I readily see that ordinance is being, even your thing with the check signers, unless they keep a running tally, how do they know?
Yeah.
So because the reporting is actually almost more important than the amount itself. The reporting of the expenditures has to be something readily available. I know I can dig through and decipher, spend a day and a half looking at the numbers to try to figure it out. But if we had a report, they just showed it right up front. Okay, these are the expenditures total. These are the expenditures total.
Yeah, well, and to Trustee Dilbert's point, I mean, I do agree, on a day-to-day operations of the village, I don't need a $4,000 spending limit. My main concern is the DPW and the fire department. When I look at the invoices here, we had a D&J. D&J needed to do striping for the railroad. Requirement by MDOT, Main Street needed to be striped for the railroad crossing. That alone was $36.50. So under the proposed change, that would mean that you'd only have less than $400 for the rest of the month. Because that was it wasn't routine, but it was an expense that he needed to make.
That had to be paid that day?
Sorry?
That had to be paid that day?
Well, we had to have D&J do the work, so, I mean, we can, right, but again, this is that whole, we can bring it to the table, but the work's already done.
Well, the fact is, it's railroad striking and all that brings me because they consider it public safety.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I would,
I mean, I would be perfectly comfortable with reducing my limit as long as we can have the fire department and the DPW able to continue with their operations of, you know, making the necessary purchase they gotta make. And I do agree with you that we do need, I would like to see, I do want to get a little bit of a better handle on how our reporting is in the packet. In the past, I think the wording on the, and this is something that Treasurer Sosnowski and I, we actually met on Monday during my department head meeting, and we were all talking about it. One of the things that we kind of realized is that there's the recurring bills portion of the packet in the report. In the past, you were approving next month's recurring bills, but the way that it's being presented right now, and it's, you know, we've had so many changes in treasurers over the years, somewhere along the way, miscommunication or you know, misrepresentation. Now it's listing July's bills in the recurring payments, but those already happened. Should be the next month's bills that you're approving in advance. And then that would give you the opportunity that, hey, this is a recurring bill that for September, I don't want to approve.
yeah. Well, I always had the problem with pre-approving bills ahead of time in case you do run into those situations, but we're okay with that as a board. But, yeah, as long as we can see what is being spent and how it applies to the spending ordinance, to make sure everything is being done per the ordinance.
Yeah.
I mean, the amounts, you know, I want it as small as possible, but I don't think I'm necessarily opposed to keeping them at 4, but if we want to lower it, I'm okay with that too. But as long as they're being reported and we can readily see how it's being spent.
How about this? Let's, maybe for this month, between this meeting and next meeting, why don't treasurer, our accountant and I get together, we'll try to go through the reports, try to see what we can do for better reporting. And then based off what we come back with next month, we can decide if there's a ordinance change that's needed.
Because, yeah, right now, the only two reporting that are required are recurring bills and emergencies. I would also like to see one under the purchasing agent, so we can see what they're spending money on.
Yeah, well, and to your point, I mean, so I did email everybody out about the phone system, and you know, I guess maybe I wasn't as clear that it was emergency, our phone systems are down. And I did not include, to your point, or one of your points, I didn't include what the dollar amount was at the time. But I had said in the email that I had authorized VC3 to move forward with getting the phone system up. Between the two vendors that we had as options, they were the cheaper of the two to get us back online. So, but yeah, I mean, whatever type of, I mean, I'm all for transparency. Whatever type of reporting you guys want. My you know, knee-jerk holy crap on this was, you know, we had $1 million in paying the bills. If you're saying that everybody only gets $4,000 per purchasing agent, I'm just like, okay, how do we?
Most of those are already council approved. Most of those are recurring. Like I was like, what is the amount that's yours?
Well, and I
it's
think
like next to none.
And I think that's where the confusion was, is that in the documents that you sent in the email, it only had ordinance 399, not the full 302. So I didn't see the section about routine expenditure.
Yeah, I was looking at a hard copy, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was for everything that we have to pay. I mean, that doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
So that was my-
Just the discretionary amount to say we gave purchasing agents.
Yeah.
That was given before I was.
Mr. President,
Yeah, so you wouldn't know.
if I may, just so everybody relaxes in the public when they see this, the president is also bonded by law, so that if he does run away with a Lamborghini, we will get it back. Okay? Just so that everybody knows that the officials are bonded.
Under $1 million. Bonds,
I mean, if he goes over $1 billion, we're out of luck.
Well,
Right.
$4,000 limit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been some cases of things that you guys might not have necessarily agreed with that I had authorized. But I would definitely challenge everybody to say, you know, is there anything that you've seen in the check registry that you felt was inappropriate, or, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, even if it was something that you might not have totally agreed with, when we did bring it to council, it did get approval, so.
And I kept prefacing it and everything, this is not about you at all, not you personally. I said, in the future, there's going to be somebody in that chair that isn't going to be doing this right. And we need a policy and the ordinances in place for a council to at least do something.
Well, I think that's where I was going back with, is that we do have a lot of those checks and balances in place already, with having to get the GL number from our, you know, accountant, having to, you know, the AP clerk, you have the separation of duties as far as who's doing what. You have the 2 check signers to be able to sign the checks. They might not have the
The
approval.
authority is right here.
They might not have the authority for approval. I totally agree. But just like what we do have later on here in the agenda, you know, Treasurer Sosnowski saw, hey, there's the VC3 phone implementation. It wasn't pre-approved by council. It was, you know, I did it as an emergency act. But it's also invoiced at net 35. Let's bring it to council. You know, I understand that. So.
And that was my other thing with the discretionary. That's $4,000 that can't wait until next month.
Right.
And that's another reason. So I said, not only does it not cover the recurring bills and emergencies and anything that was already council pre-approved, it's also the expenditures that can't wait. Because if it can wait, it can wait.
The hard
Anybody
part,
working with the government knows that there's an approval process, and it's not in 24 hours.
the hard part that I foresee is just, right now, as the invoices come in, they get entered into the system. If there's gonna be a, hey, let's hold on to this check until, you know, we gotta wait until next council meeting, we're gonna have to make sure that we have procedures in place in the office, right, to make sure that we're not setting an invoice aside because we see net 30, we have time to approve it, but then we forget about it, or something, you know?
Well, if we place it under recurring bills, it just gets paid because we're already okay with it, right?
Okay. All right, we'll work on doing some reporting changes and everything, try to bring some greater visibility there, and then we can bring it back to the discussion next month.
And if we want to, because we've never done it, when we did it, it says, when we decide what the recurring bills are, we do it by resolution and list them out, and we've never done that. So maybe that's why it's not clear, maybe we should.
Right.
I don't, unless we want to change it to not do it by resolution and just have the list prepared for us that says, okay, these are our recurring bills. If anybody doesn't want one of these bills on here, then we act as a council to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what I would propose is, we'll have to go through, you know, maybe the year-to-date report. I think Ms. Case will already supplied me with that report. Then I can go through and say, okay, what's a recurring bill, designated as such, and then bring it back next month, make sure everybody's in agreement with it.
There is a list in your packet.
There is. So there is the list that's in the packet, which is the one, I don't necessarily like the heading on it, but it is in the packet. But I don't know if that necessarily covers all the recurring bills that we have. You know, for example, actually even, you know, on tonight's original agenda, the GoGov and the Civic Plus. These are annual renewals. I would think that that would be a recurring bill that we would just put under the bills for an annual payment, because unless somebody says otherwise,
Well,
we're
it's
just.
an annual payment, we gotta renew the contract.
Right.
But like on those, didn't we approve that last month to renew the contract? So we already approved that, so then it would be an approved thing.
Yeah, GoGov would be approved in May.
But to your point before, that is something that we should be approving the following month. Okay, we're gonna pay this one here,
Right.
and that's how we should structure it.
Ms. Kazel?
The reason why I put GoGov and the other one on there was because the contract had said that the amount would be increased 7%. It didn't give us an amount what the next contract year was gonna be on that contract, so that's why I brought it to everybody's attention. It didn't give us a final amount, so that's why I brought it to everybody's attention.
Yeah. Okay, we'll work on some of the reports, see what we can put together, and then bring it back. Be compromised. I'm okay with that. All right, item number C, rental ordinance revision, Chief Steer.
Good evening. In front of you, you have ordinance 408, which was adopted back in 2013, allowing the village to do residential inspections. Today, we're asking to change some of that, revise some of that ordinance, specifically moving from 3 years to to 2-year inspections. Currently, it sits at 3 years. We're also looking to change the fee from, it's $15. Yeah, annual registration fee of $15 per dwelling unit to reflect the application values in the fee schedule that we approved last month. And to change the complaint violation from $35 to $100, and the annual or the 2-year inspections to $250. We don't receive a lot, but we do receive complaints. And as part of our risk management for the village to make it a cohesive place to live, this is something that we're interested in taking on. We've got a control under the commercial inspections, so we're looking to move into the residential inspections. We currently have 1 certified and 1 that will finish up its test here soon. Fire inspectors, you do not have to be any type of rental inspector. We are not electrical inspectors, we're not building inspectors, but we do know that if we see a plug play off or no extinguisher, no fire detector, or anything like that, that we can refer to proper authority. So if we see an electrical problem, or maybe it's outdated electrical, right, that's not us, but we can refer it to the proper authority moving forward. So again, this is something we'd like to take on. We wouldn't start this until sometime the first quarter of 2026. Give us enough time to continue to work out the bugs on our application and some sort of online registration, if you will. The question might be, how do we know who's a rental? We will cross-reference UB versus tax billing. For the most part, we've started that already. We've identified roughly 50 houses right now in the village. Very, very rough estimate right now.
We also talked about possibly doing a self-reporting for renters to, report that they are renting from, somebody and kind of notify the fire department that they want to have their rental inspected. At the end of the day, it, improves their living conditions. Or certifies that their landlord is doing a good job.
So this would be something that the attorney would need to revise the current ordinance?
Yep, he's already had he's already looked at it and offered his opinion to us today.
What you guys want to charge and what you guys want to set as fees is within your dominion.
My suggestion would be to set the schedule outside of the ordinance to reference it in the ordinance, so you don't have to change the ordinance every time.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. That is a no. Yeah.
Because I don't see the proposed new ordinance, I just see changes.
Yep. And this is part of, again, of our risk management. You'll see us coming through these winter months with a variety of ordinance changes to better reflect change within the village moving forward. Between code enforcement and building department, we will work together, and again, we've got a list going already. We'll try to take this one at a time.
So one of the nice synergies that we get with having fire department and building department working together on this one, being under the same umbrella now. That, we have some resources from the fire department that are able to then do help with the inspections and, this is an ordinance that we've had on the books for,
2013.
2003.
13.
2013 that we just really haven't acted upon. So now this is finally, lets people know that if they're going to come and rent in New Haven, that they're going to have a decent rental.
So the bulk of the changes will be removing the fee schedule from the ordinance so that we don't have to change the ordinance every time, and reducing the cycle from 3 years to 2 years.
Yes, sir.
So the ordinance, or the motion would be to
Authorize the attorney to make these changes. So then Attorney Ennis will bring that back next month for public posting and review and then pass it to the public.
I'll move to authorize our attorney to make the modifications to rental ordinance 408 as discussed.
It's been moved and supported that Attorney Ennis makes the recommended changes regarding the fee schedule and updated inspection cycle. Discussion on the motion. Yes, sir.
Could you read the numbers again, the dollar amounts?
Dollar amounts, yes, so, I'll just go through page. So page 4, we're gonna change the years from 3 to 2. Page 7, we're gonna change again, from 3 to 2. Change the fee to reflect the application values per fee schedule and not so much the ordinance. Page 7 also is going to change annual to every 2 years. And then change from 30, so on page 8, it's going to go, the charge for a complaint is currently $35. We're going to move that to $100. And then the fee itself is $250 per, and again, I think in there I put the application, and it goes by per unit, right? If it's a duplex and you own one of them, right, we're not going to charge you for both, we're going to charge you just for the rent. And again, a lot of these ordinances that we're coming to is the stuff that we're going to update, right? I think there's a permit right now, it costs you $10 to come in and put your trailer in the corner and sell stuff. So, just things that we're going to make and bring to update.
Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Hedges? Yes. Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Noah?
Yes.
President Bison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item D is Village of New Haven social media moderation policy. So this came about because we've been having issues with the Village of New Haven's Facebook page. Unfortunately, I'm sure everybody that's not on social media knows there's plenty of spammers and scammers out there. Routinely, we're posting events, Slow Roll, Red Hot and Blue especially, and we get people that are posing as members of the village office, saying that they have stuff for sale or that contact them to sign up as a vendor, so on and so forth. We've also had companies just blatantly spamming the Facebook page with advertisements completely unrelated to the post. Although, obviously there is concerns about moderating the Village of New Haven's social media account. We don't want to infringe on any First Amendment rights. It is our belief that if we have this social media policy in place, setting guidelines of what does not qualify to be on the Village of New Haven's Facebook page. So it would be right to moderating spam, obscenities, hate speech, personally identifiable information. You might get somebody who erroneously gives us their phone number or something. At our discretion, our social media person could delete that comment, just so that they're not publicly posting their phone number and getting spammed. don't see that this would be used on a regular basis, but in speaking with Attorney Addis, if we post this to the website, we post this to the village Facebook page, we make a clear expectation of these are the guidelines that then kind of protects us. Attorney Addis, if you have any,
I reviewed it, and a number of municipalities have almost the identical ordinance. How enforceable it is to be tested on a case-by-case basis, but it is a wise ordinance to have, and it's constitutional. If you decide to pass it, it's legal.
any questions? And actually, you mentioned ordinance. I think I have this as a social media policy.
That's fine too, it can be either one.
All right.
As long as people are aware of it, it will.
The intention would be to post this on the village website and then to also have it linked on the village Facebook page. And again, this only applies to the Village of New Haven Facebook page. This is not my page. This isn't any elected official's page. This is just the official village page.
I'll move to approve the Village of New Haven social media moderation policy.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we adopt the Village of New Haven social media moderation policy. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Purpoli?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Noah?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchell? Yes. President Mason?
Yes. Next, we have Kathy and East Cranston contract modification. This one reached out to everybody individually to ensure that this was something that everybody was comfortable with. To add an additional section to the repairs that were being performed in Amherst. We were told that they were able to do the additional work, but we needed to pull the trigger within 24 hours to avoid mobilization costs. I did query a number of you guys. I think I had almost everybody's response that they were comfortable with us individually. So I did give Surmet authorization to move forward with this work, not to exceed the $20,000. I think it was really $17,000-ish. And they did come in, complete the repair, and it's already been completed. So just want to kind of retroactively get a motion here to authorize the additional work.
So moved. Supported.
Been moved and supported to authorize the additional work which was performed not to exceed $20,000. Any further discussion on the motion?
Let me ask, what were the exact amounts?
Sir Matt, do you by chance have the exact amount? I think it was 17,000.
17,624.
17,624.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so this was for the section that was right in front of the pool house on, what's that? It's not Amherst.
It's in the subdivision.
Yeah.
Thank you, it's nice to go in there.
That section rapidly deteriorated and needed to be,
It's bad.
yeah. Okay. It's been moved and supported that we approve the additional work, change order for the Kathy and East Cranston contract. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Hatchell?
Yes.
Trustee Noah?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Purpoli?
Yes.
President Mason?
Yes. Item F, so previously, council approved the D&J construction to do the cement work on River Oaks in the amount of $44,890. The condition with D&J was that they needed to be in and out before school started. The start date that they gave us came and passed. They were unable to give us any updates on when they would be able to start on the repairs. In talking with Superintendent Dilbert, he did mention about having, he could reach out to another concrete contractor. He found a different contractor, Superior Surfaces, which actually came in cheaper than the agreed amount with D&J, $41,400. I did query with Trustee Purpoli to make sure that we had somebody that thought that was a reasonable request. And in saying so, we gave Superintendent Dilbert the authority to pull the trigger. This vendor was able to come in, get the work done within 10 days. If you've driven over River Oaks this week, it's nice and smooth again, where before the 3 sections were really badly crumbling. I know I had in here recommended action none, but in speaking with Attorney Addis, he advised it would be good to get a approval for the vendor change. So I am asking for approval to that we switch the vendor to Superior Services in the amount of $41,400. Any questions?
I move that we do the River Oaks construction, change the vendor to Superior Services in the amount of $41,400.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion on the motion?
And this will be done before school.
It's already
I
Yes, sir.
think we heard some
So yes.
autograph seekers.
Yeah, we did. We had one gentleman who was in quite the rush and actually drove up the driveway and then drove over the fresh concrete the same day that it was poured.
Oh, this is that?
This is that section. Yeah.
Oh.
Thankfully, so Marcus did get with the construction company. They came out, they inspected it. They're feeling comfortable that it had cured enough. It's definitely something we'll want to keep an eye on. I did file a police report for that incident. The gentleman that drove up the driveway and then drove across the concrete picked the wrong house to do it on because the people that live there are bail bondsmen, and once you get their license plate, they just don't do that. We'll just leave it at that. So we quickly were able to identify who it was and file a police report. Whether or not, I'm not sure what came of that. We also did have, unfortunately, while it was still wet, in a different, section along the ravine, somebody pushed their hand into the wet concrete, created an impression. We don't know for sure, but there was also 3 signatures that were around the handprint. Now I know the handprint originally was just by itself when Mr. Dilbert sent me the photo, which we were upset about the handprint enough, and then hours later there's 3 names signed in it. Thankfully the signatures are just in the dust. It's not like an impression in the concrete. And I think from what you were saying, the concrete contractor actually was most upset about that.
Yeah. The markings,
So, I mean, it doesn't look like it made any indentation, so I don't think there's any damage there. The biggest thing to me is the actual impression of the handprint.
It's pretty deep.
It's deep. It's gonna pool water.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, right in my yard.
Right. Yeah, it's right next to your house. Yeah. So I mean, that's the fact that the signatures weren't there with the handprint when we initially had discovered the handprint. I don't know if I can necessarily definitively say it was one of the 3 girls, or if they just saw the handprint and then decided to write their names around just to add to it. But yeah, definitely frustrating. Apparently, if we do cement work in the future, we're going to have somebody guard the cement work for a period of time until it's cured enough and it's hard. But who would have thought somebody would literally drive up a driveway, around the barriers, back onto the concrete, and then continue on?
We had a Harley driving on the sidewalk to get away from it.
Oh, yeah,
And I had
that
to go
too.
around an actual Harley that belongs on the street was on our sidewalk. Thank goodness my kids were outside.
My job one time was babysitting like concrete, so people do it.
Yeah, the weekend when the road was initially closed and they tore up the road was quite chaotic in the subdivision from all the people that were trying to cut through and couldn't. I'm sorry, so I think we had the moved and supported. Was there any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Hatcham?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
President Maxey?
Yes. Item G, VC3 phone system implementation. So as I had emailed you all previously, we realized on Monday, July 14th, I think it was, that the phone systems were down. None of the phone systems were working. I know when Sandy and I had talked about how our phone systems were set up, we were under the understanding that it was under SkyTel. We get a recurring bill from them. In reaching out to SkyTel, trying to understand why the phone system was down, they pointed us in the direction of SYO. We asked SYO to help, and that's when he said, hey, your 90 days on the contract expired, so I disabled your phone account. He then said that he could bring it back up for $4,800. And frankly, the fact that he didn't give us any heads up ahead of time and allowed our phone system to expire, I wasn't in the mood of placating him to pay, especially after placating him with the 90-day contract or 90-day notice. So I reached out to VC3. I got a comparison quote from them. Their quote, the one-time implementation fee was $4,500 to get us back up and running. It was less than the $4,800. There is approximately a $550 monthly, which was less than what Jason's was. Jason said if we did a monthly, it was like $1,200. So based off of that, I gave VC3 to go ahead. Like I said, the fact that this took out the village administration office phone number, it took out the fire department phone number, and it's funny when things go bad, you realize all these things that you have. I didn't realize, but we still own the New Haven Police Department phone number that's posted like literally everywhere, still as a viable number to call. That number automatically forwards over to Macomb County Sheriff Department dispatch. So I had Macomb County supervisor or dispatch supervisor calling us asking why the phone systems were down. Treasurer Sosnowski had banks and people calling him asking why the phones were down. For all intents and purposes, I considered it to be an emergency situation that we needed to get the phones back online. That's why I authorized the VC3 to move forward. Trustee Dilbert brought up earlier about, so with the implementation of the new phone system, it comes with new phones, unfortunately. The phones that we had were not compatible with SYO's VoIP system or let me rephrase. The SYO phones that we had were not compatible with VC3's phone system. So we did just purchase these phones 2 years ago. You go on Amazon right now or Google online, they go for roughly around $100. Unfortunately, there is the labor involved of putting them up for sale and all that, but there is the opportunity of recouping some of the implementation cost by being able to sell off all of the previous phones that we just purchased. Obviously, they're going to be used. It's going to be a reduced price, but there is some opportunity to recoup some of that cost. As of August 1st, the system is back online. It's live. You can make your phone, you can send and receive phone calls. I know we had some hiccups with the programming that we're still working out. Frankly, with this being an emergency situation, us trying to get everything in order as quickly as possible using the information we had available to us, we did the best that we could. So that's kind of where we're at. The total amount was for the implementation from VC3 was the $4,620, and then there is the monthly amount was approximately $550. That part I'm still not 100% clear on what the monthly is, just because originally the quote that I was using as the baseline for setting this all up was what SYO gave us as a quote for the number of phones that we needed, the number of numbers we had, and all this, how many numbers were being ported. And then that is what determines, the number of extensions you have is what determines what your monthly amount is with the phone system. off of the number of extensions and phones. We ended up not needing as many phones. I actually have a stack of, I think like 8 phones, 5 to 8 phones, sitting on my desk that we ordered as part of this, thinking we needed them, and then as we sorted through everything, we don't, so we can return and, not have to pay that as part of the monthly bill. So it should be less than the 550, I just don't know what the total amount is at the present time.
So our contract with BC3 doesn't cover phones?
No.
I guess my question is, what does it cover?
The IT, so it's the IT support, our network, all that fun stuff.
Because it seems like every time something goes down, we have to replace it.
Yeah, I mean, so what really, essentially what it boils down to is that we didn't have a good understanding of what was still under SYO versus what was under our own control. When Sandy and I had talked about the VoIP system, the phone system, we knew we were getting a monthly bill from SkyTel, so I thought that's what our phone system was, and I had no expectation that 90 days comes and that's
But while these phones were down, I reached out to Jason, and he forwarded me a chain of emails. And the first email, which was sent back in April, I think it was April, spelled out the 90 days that his contract would expire on July 14th at 5 p.m.
Sure.
And that's exactly when it expired.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So how come we didn't have this transferred over? Did somebody drop the ball?
So I'll take full responsibility of dropping the ball, but I would also say that that Jason was not forthcoming with information.
I mean, I can see the email between Jason and the young lady from BC3 and telling her what she needs to do to transfer the information and all these different, IT jargon. But we had 90 days to make this happen, and it didn't happen. And sure enough, on July 14th, I think it was, at 5 p.m., the phone went dead.
Right. So during that 90-day period, there was a point in time where Jason did reach out to us and he said, he reached out to BC3, and I think I was CC'd, or maybe he reached out to me and had BC3, I don't remember which, but in any case, he reached out to both BC3 and myself, and he said, you guys got to do XYZ to switch over the Microsoft 365 information, or else you're going to lose access on XYZ date. So he did give us that heads up for the Microsoft 365. Why we did not get that heads up about the phone system, I don't know. Like I said, we were under the understanding that we were being billed through SkyTel, and that this was not something that was tied through SYO. I know when we originally were reaching out to Jason, there was an entire Excel file. They called it the playbook or run book, IT run book, that they were asking Jason to fill out, which would have spelled out all of this stuff that I don't think he ever fully, returned to us. Trying to get information from Jason through the course of even, since the meeting where we decided to cancel the contract all the way through to the 90 days, it's like pulling teeth.
This information was never an SYO service information?
So we get billed, the way it was billed is there was a monthly support for server monitoring of the Linux VoIP system. For all intents and purposes, I thought that's a system that we had here that he's monitoring, and we had it going through SkyTel as the VoIP system. Like I said, I'll take the blame that I dropped the ball and didn't have a full understanding of the system. That's definitely one of the things that we've learned through the course of this, is that we just really did not have a handle of what is our actual environment. Recently we had our Comcast gateways all got reset to factory. We don't know why, we don't know how, we don't know who. We just know that it happened. It changed the the Wi-Fi at the Fountain Park, it changed the Wi-Fi at Community Park, and it changed the way that our Wi-Fi here in the building works. I don't know if that was part of Jason removing himself from things, that it triggered a factory reset. I don't know if it was just Comcast decided to do a factory reset, but there's a lot of things that it's like, we're constantly on the rebound, we're on the, phrase I'm looking for. Yeah, we're recovering, we're always like finding these things, and it's like, crap, like now what? Yeah, I mean, you wanna say I didn't drop the ball, you can definitely say I dropped the ball.
Who's our system administrator?
VC3 is now the system administrator. Jason was.
Tell me, who's our contact?
What do you mean?
Here in the village, if we have an issue in the village, who's our contact person that is authorized to contact VC3?
All of the office staff are authorized to contract VC3. Yeah, I might be listed as like a point of contact, but I mean, everybody in the office can contact VC3.
So, Dan, can you contact VC3 and get a response?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sandy, can you?
In the beginning, no. I was told I was not the point of contact.
The point of contact, but we updated that and said that everybody in the office has that ability.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Sandy's been putting in tickets, I've seen Monica put in tickets,
Okay.
everybody's able to put in tickets. Yeah, I don't hold any administrative rights over VC3 or any of that stuff, so I know that's been a point of contention. I don't have, even when Ms. Kazel brought up about the Comcast, stuff resetting, I don't have administrative access to that. I have no.
Did you find out what that issue was?
No, we have not. We were talking about having to put in a ticket to Comcast. VC3 doesn't have that access. We've never given them access to our business account, so the only person that I know that has the administrative access is actually Ms. Kazel, but I know she didn't do it. I'm not saying she did. So, yeah, I mean, we're always being kept on our toes with this, but I mean, for the most part, now that we got the phone system in place, hopefully things are gonna be dying down, settling in. We have a couple more things that we gotta sort out. There was, I just did get a quote for the wall mounts. There was 3 wall mounts that the fire department still needs for their phones throughout their side of the building. That was like $21 or something like that, so just authorized that today. And then we also need to get their overhead speakers set up. And then some programming that we gotta sort through. But yeah, otherwise, phone systems are back online and people are able to call the village again. So with that, I'm asking for approval for the implementation quote from VC3 in the amount of $4620.
So this is an emergency pay or?
Well, I mean, I was putting it as an emergency pay, but it is a net 30 invoice. I'm just trying to navigate with all the spending discussion. If you guys want this to be an approval, we can make an approval. If you guys want it to be that it was handled under the emergency, we can handle it under the emergency. I mean,
I was under the impression it was.
okay. So are we comfortable with that, just saying the check signers can sign the check?
Brady said yes.
All right.
It was emergency because of the police, he said. No.
Yeah, I mean, we needed to
You know, the
get,
fire department, they have to have access to the fire and police.
Yeah.
They were being dispatched.
as much as we do have the disclaimer that if it's emergency, dial 911, the fire chief would tell me that we do get calls which otherwise should be routed to 911 that come into that.
I get voicemails on my phone for the police department. I got the clerk, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
Non-emergency.
done, that brings us to item number H, building inspector posting. So recently within the office, we've been discussing the need to have backup building inspectors. Our current building official, no fault of his own, he's a snowbird. He'll go down to Florida for a number of months in the winter. But when he is down there, it does kind of put us into a pinch. We have been relying on other municipalities, neighboring municipalities, to share their building inspector. We did have an individual that lives within the village who had talked to us about an interest in helping us with the building inspector position. But I felt, before we make any decisions, I just wanted to bring it to council's attention and also ask for permission to post it so that it would be a public post, that we're putting it out there, that we're looking for backup building inspectors to cover on an as-needed basis when our current building official isn't available.
I'll move to publicly post the backup building inspector posting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we publicly post the building inspector position for a backup building inspector. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Call from the floor. Call from the floor. All right. Seeing none, call from the table. I feel like there was something I was going to bring up, that call from the table, that's eluding me at the moment, so I guess you guys are spared. We do have a closed session on the agenda to talk about possible litigation. There will be a motion, there likely will be a motion after the closed session, once we return. So we need a motion to enter into closed session for possible litigation at 9:15.
So moved.
Support.
There's got to be a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Guerrero? Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Cohen?
Yes.
Trustee Hampton? Yes. President Meyer?
All right, motion in order to return at 9:22.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported that we return at 9:22. Motion in order.
I make a motion to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Support. It's been moved and supported that we proceed as discussed in closed session. Roll call, please.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Noah?
Yes.
Trustee Crowley?
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.